Hello, everyone. Welcome. My name is Tepper, and welcome to this talk all about the broken heart of marketing. I started Tepper 4 years ago. I've been in marketing for about 22 years. And what I try and focus on now is helping clients do minimal effort for maximum gain. I want them to spend an hour a week doing marketing, and I want their clients to come to them. After 22 years in marketing, I've been observing the space for a long time, as you can imagine. One of the biggest challenges I see is that small businesses especially aim for perfection all the time. We create inescapable structures, whether it's data, whether it's copy, whether it's content planning, whatever it is, we create inescapable structures in which to contain and capture customers. We have built up too much of a reliance on science, a dangerous submission to numbers. But we're not numbers, of course, we're people. All of you, lovely, lovely people. And that's why marketing is broken. For small businesses, that can be a death sentence. Marketing has to punch above its weight if you're going to win. Today, I'm going to cover quite a lot of ground. We're going to go from eyebrows to empathy, from data to intuition, from information to knowledge, and from expectation to service. I'm going to explore why I believe authenticity is dead, which is a very bold thing to say, but I'm going to back it up. And I'm going to tell you what I think comes next. And I'll go through my conversation mastery program, and I'll show you how you can reignite the art of heart and become conversation masters in your marketplace. As I said, I've been in marketing for 22 years. I am a father, a philosopher, but most importantly, I'm really empathic and I'm really intuitive. And I've never lost that. In fact, as I've got deeper and deeper into marketing, those powers, those superpowers of empathy and intuition have carried me further and further into becoming a master of conversation and a master of marketing in my world. So where did it all go wrong? Let's start at the beginning. Well, we started on a trajectory that very quickly became an evolution to perfection. Everything had to be perfect. Everything had to be signed off, triple signed off. There had to be processes in place. People didn't want to get in trouble. People didn't want to get blamed. This craving for perfection is understandable. But when you're a small business and you don't have a marketing team, how do you deal with that? How does it not become a bottleneck? How does it not choke the business and choke the marketing and thus the pipeline and thus the sales? These inescapable structures that I spoke of that we create to contain and capture customers are our very downfall. We have to relax. We have to become more empathic and more intuitive. And the smaller the business, the more intuitive and empathic you have to become. You have to be able to let go. Once in a while, there's a typo in my copy. Shock horror. Once in a while, one of the subtitles in one of my videos might have the wrong word because it didn't translate from automation. Once in a while, a tweet didn't go out. The wrong subject got used on an email. These things happen all the time. And I'm not trying to make excuses for sloppiness. I'm just being realistic about what a small business can achieve. You know, we talk about omnichannel being everywhere. One of the biggest questions I get asked is, what channel should I be on? And what about all the other channels? I had a law firm recently talk to me about what channel they should be on. They're not on any channels at the moment. They're doing nothing with content. And I said, well, for me, I think you should be on LinkedIn. And they said, but what about Snapchat and TikTok? And I said, well, you can't even do LinkedIn yet. So let's just start off basic. Let's start off slowly. Omnichannel isn't customer centric. It's business centric. Being everywhere isn't for the customer. It's for you. It's because you think that by playing a volume game, a quantity game, that you're going to achieve more. You're not. That's not where the conversation is built. When you go to a party, you don't start conversations with 10 people simultaneously, because that wouldn't be sincere. That wouldn't be authentic. And for those of you that have seen The Social Dilemma recently, you'll see what's happening with conversation, how it's being weaponized and automated. That's not a good thing for any of us, especially if you're a small business. Automation can be a serious part of what you do, but it can't be the whole thing. You can't just fire and forget your marketing. You can't just outsource it and forget about it and expect leads to come, because those leads will only be leads. They will not be conversations. And leads burn very quickly. And we don't live in a lead generating world. We live in a demand generating world, where the customer has all the power. They have all the knowledge. Nobody wants to be sold to, but everybody wants to buy. So how are you facilitating your future customers' buy decisions? We've built up a real reliance on science. It's a really dangerous submission to numbers. But we're not numbers, of course. And we have to live life beyond the algorithms. I get asked all the time, I'm a LinkedIn coach, and I get asked all the time, how do I get more engagement on LinkedIn? And the answer I give is surprising. I say, you don't get more engagement on LinkedIn. What, Al? What are you talking about? Why don't I get more engagement on LinkedIn? I want more engagement on LinkedIn. But the reality is, it's not yours to give, is it? See, the thing is about engagement is it's owned by the person who's going to give it to you. It's their attention. It's their engagement, not yours. So you don't get more engagement. And forgive me for the semantics, but this is important because when you think you can get something, you feel like you're in control of it and you're not. But what you can do, and this is what I say to people, what you can do is you can ask yourself, what do I need to do for them to give me their engagement, to give me their attention? What do I need to be for them? What do I need to do for them? How can I serve them? And this is why it's all about conversation mastery, because it is a conversation. Marketplaces are conversations. That was said in 1999 in the Clue Train Manifesto, and it's still true today. Markets are conversations. So just knowing the numbers, just playing to the algorithm is just like it used to be with SEO and Google. People used to write copy just for Google, but people want to read real copy. So the real knack now is to blend great content for Google with content that people want to read because they don't want to read something you've just written for Google. That's why you'd have a high bounce rate, because they come to a great page that Google loves, but it doesn't make sense to them because they're a human being, they're a person, they're not an algorithm. We need to reestablish the art of heart. The art of heart comes from the deepest place. And what do I mean by that? You can't sell something you don't believe in, fundamentally. You have to find the belief in it. And if you're running a small business, the chances are you started that business for a reason. You started that business because something about it was something you valued, whether it was your experience, your expertise, regardless of what it was. You started that business not for the money, and everyone thinks they do it for the money, but you started it because of who you are, what your skill set is, what you love doing, what you enjoy waking up and doing 5-6 days a week. So to get back to the art of heart, we just need to go into that story, into the origin of why we do something. You know, most of the time I ask people, why do you do what you do? And I would say 99.9% of the time people say, oh, I do it for my kids. That's what you do it for. That's not why you do it. It's not the same thing. And I'm not trying to call you out, but it's a lazy answer and you can do better. You can go deeper. It's not about what you do it for. It's about why you did it in the first place. Because most people started their business before they had kids. Why did you do it then? You did it because it worked for you, because it triggered parts of you that you liked to be triggered, because it delivered value to you and allowed you to deliver value to customers in a way that was congruent with your values and your interests and your experience. And when you really, really go deep in that, when you get to the deepest place, and I do this all the time with clients, and it gets emotional as well. When you get to the deepest place, you realize why you do stuff. I remember the mortgage company CEO, he told me initially that he did it for the money, that he was a finance guy and that's what he wanted to do. And then eventually he accepted it and understood that the reason he got into the mortgage business was because when he was a kid, his family, under the right to buy, bought their home with a mortgage. And for the first time, they felt like they had a home. And he loved that feeling. And he wanted to help other people do that. He wanted to help families find the finance. He wanted to fund families. His marketing changed dramatically because it came from the deepest place and he had reestablished the art of heart in the core of his business, in the DNA. Markets really are conversations. You would never go to a dinner party and behave most of the way you behave on social media today. I ask clients to audit themselves, and we look at their social feed and we say, would you say that in a pub? Would you say that to someone at a dinner party? Would you even say that in a business meeting? And most people go, no, of course not. And they have that horror and that realization of, well, why do we say it? Nobody knows why they're saying it that way. People are broadcasting on social all the time instead of being social. And by the way, the posts you put out are the tip of the iceberg when it comes to social. It's about being social. Imagine if you just went to a dinner party and you just spoke to people and you didn't pay attention to anything that came back and you didn't engage. And when they stopped listening, you moved on and spoke to the next person. People would think there was something wrong with you. And yet it's perfectly acceptable to do in marketing. Not for me, not for my clients. At the end of the day, it is about conversation mastery. It is about understanding how to reestablish the art of heart in the business, how to make it about the people again. Because who do people buy from? They buy from people. It's not rocket science. Nothing has changed apart from one tiny thing called the internet. And what the internet did brilliantly, and I've been a digital leader for nearly 20 years. So I love the internet. Don't get me wrong. I'm not tearing down the internet. On the contrary, I'm just arguing the case for a bit of a rebalance. Because for 20 years, what we've done is obsess about stats to the point where Instagram have started not showing people how many likes are there because it's the wrong KPI. It doesn't matter how many people like a post. It matters how many people are customers. You know, we recently saw a fantastic influencer launch a t-shirt range. She had 3 million followers and I think she sold 12 t-shirts. Someone can correct me, of course, with the actual stats. Because those 3 million followers weren't interested. She hadn't done her profiling. She hadn't actually created a tribe. She hadn't created an audience around avatars that she felt that she would reach. Because if she had done all of that, she'd have sold more than 12 t-shirts, wouldn't she? And that's the bottom line. We get carried away with stats. We get carried away with false KPIs. I need more likes. I need more followers. Why? You could build the most profitable business in the world with a single follower, if that single follower was Richard Branson or Bill Gates. The obsession with quantity over quality is killing businesses, and I see it all the time. I need leads now. Al, I need leads now. I want 1,000 leads by the end of the week. That's disastrous. Absolutely disastrous. There are ways to do that, but that's the wrong question to ask. Most of those people don't even know what their ideal customer is. They just want numbers because it makes them feel better. And the problem with that is there are lots of lovely ethical marketing agencies, but there are some less so who will see that as an opportunity to sell something, whether it's appropriate or not. And then the small business is under not only marketing pressure, but financial pressure because they've now invested in a program that isn't going to give them what they need or what they want. And it is a personal mission of mine to make sure that we close the marketing knowledge gap so that businesses don't go out of business. That's why my mum's business went out of business. Nobody knew she was there. It's all about the eyebrows. It's a strange thing to say, but Frank Zappa first said this in the 70s. He said this following quote: "A computer can tell you a story, but it can't tell you the whole story. It just doesn't have the eyebrows." It's all about empathy. It's all about eyebrows. For me, the most important business book, the most important book, and certainly the most important marketing book is Daring Greatly by Brené Brown, which is a very odd selection. And yet, when you understand that what it's about is the removal of shame and judgment, when we can feel free to act honestly, truly, authentically, where we can show up for our customers without fear of being ridiculed because there was a single typo, we'll be more value to our customers and to our prospective customers. You know, Einstein famously said, not everything worth measuring is measurable, and not everything measurable is worth measuring. If even Einstein understood the difference between intuition and data, I would urge you all to do the same. Rebalance your business. Reestablish the art of heart in your business. Reestablish the primacy of empathy and emotion and intuition, because people buy from people. And if you're not living that way in your business, you're going off a cliff. It's a matter of when, not if. Not even through your own hand, but because a more intuitive and empathic competitor will come and eat your lunch. It's going to happen. It's almost guaranteed. We talk about data all the time, It has its place. The discussion is between information and knowledge. Having customer information is not the same as having customer insight, having customer knowledge, knowing your customer. You can't automate a relationship. You just can't. And despite the best efforts of AI, and I'm sure someone will try and prove me wrong, I don't believe you can automate a long-term relationship or conversation. You might be able to fool me for a minute or two with a chatbot, but I don't believe that over time I'm not going to be aware that I'm not speaking to a human being. And then how am I going to feel about your brand if you haven't told me that in the first place? It comes down to what I spoke about at the start, the death of authenticity. And this brings us back full circle, because authenticity is now bandied around like peanuts. Everyone does it. Some of the most inauthentic people in the world tell me they're authentic. And that's when I first knew, that was the moment when I knew authenticity was dead. And what comes after authenticity is astounding. It's foolproof. It's absolutely golden. And you're either doing it or you're not. You're either safe or you're not. What comes after authenticity cannot be replicated and faked. What comes after authenticity is service. Because you can fake being authentic, but you really can't fake looking after your customers. You know, Gary Vaynerchuk, His Holiness Gary Vaynerchuk, recently said, well, not so recently, in the last few months, said that the best marketing strategy in the world is 4 letters, C-A-R-E. You just have to care. All you have to do is care. You just have to care. Service, service, service. That's what wins. You can't fake service. You can fake authenticity, and so many people do, and that's why it's dead. Ultimately, conversation comes before conversion in both the dictionary and in life. You can't get to the customer without conversation. I'm now going to show you some ways to reconnect. I think this will be interesting and astounding. I have a stand in the virtual exhibition. If you want to get in touch to find out any more of this, please do. I'm a very loving and giving human, and I'll do my best to answer questions, and I'll tell you how I work with people, of course. That's only fair as well. So the first thing, there's 5 pieces to reestablishing and reconnecting to the art of heart. The first is story. The second is brand. The third is content. The fourth is campaigns. And the fifth is execution. Story, brand, content, campaigns, execution. And they're all equally important. You can't do one without the other. When it comes to story, I have a story process that I have evolved over 20 years to make it effortless and easy. Clients don't even realize what I'm drawing out of them most of the time. There's no way they can prepare for it. They come in completely unprepared. They don't need to do any prep. I don't need to do any competitor analysis. I'm not interested. I'm interested in here, not out here. And so I have a 12 question process. It's just 12 questions that unlocks enough of a conversation for me to unpack what needs to be unpacked, so that I can then take them through the process that comes after the questioning to reassemble that story. And I reassemble that story in such a powerful way that almost every word carries weight. Almost every word. In fact, if a word doesn't carry weight emotionally, why is it there? And the story process can be summarized as follows. 3 words: pain, process, paradise. If you take nothing away from this session, then I would urge you to remember and burn into your mind pain, process, paradise. Once you have pain, process, paradise, you can revert your story, your entire story, down to 3 keywords: before, during, after, pain, process, paradise. And if you were in a lift with Richard Branson, you could tell him those 3 words and hopefully get his attention. The next phase is brand. And we have a process called the brand pyramid. The brand pyramid consists of two pairs of two pieces. The first pair is the wow and the USP, logic and fear. The wow has to answer the emotional element. The wow has to create a connection, and the USP has to answer the logical question: why should I buy this? Am I going to look an idiot? You know, am I going to look an idiot if I buy this? Because if somebody thinks they're going to look an idiot, they're not going to buy it. It's that simple. Above the wow and the USP comes the strapline and the brand. And these are a really important pair. Most people don't do this right, and it drives me wild. They work together. They are a tandem. You can't have one without the other. You can't just have a logo. It doesn't work because it doesn't say enough. And they're meant to do two things: the wow, the brand and the strap. One of them is going to be aspirational and one of them is going to be operational. One of them is going to be about the promise and one of them is going to be about the delivery. So if you just have a logo, you're only doing 50%. You're either selling the delivery or selling the dream. And you can't do both at the same time. It's not possible because it's only a logo. There's only so much you can communicate. And there are so many good examples of how that works. Tesco, every little helps. I don't know what Tesco's is. What does every little help tell me? Well, it tells me it's about the little things in my life. It's probably about the stuff I don't even think about, but they're helpful, and they've got every one of them. They've got everything. Every little helps. It's brilliant. It's genius. Once you've got the wow and the USP and the strapline and the brand fully formed, your brand pyramid is safe and solid, and everything else can flow back up to that. Especially content. This is where people lose it. The biggest disconnect is on content. Because what people try and do is sell. They try and sell too much. And you haven't built the relationship yet. You've only just met this person. You've met someone at a dinner party and you're trying to close a deal. You haven't earned the right yet. You haven't earned the right. So when it comes to content, we take those three keywords, pain, process, paradise. We take the three keywords that we've distilled down from our story and we explode them into 729 headlines in about 10 minutes. We've got a very, very clever process that does that. And you can do that. It's not hard. It won't be as good as if you do it with us, but it's really simple. Use the power of intuition to build word lists off of each of those three. And then just put them in a grid. All the words here and all the words here. And straight away, you've got this massive grid of congruent content that's going to start conversations. And then we come to campaigns. Campaigns have to take some key elements. The avatar, your ideal customer, not the customer you have, but the customer you want, your ideal customer. And you have to flip FOMO. You can't have fear of missing out and take every bit of business that comes your way. You have to have enough faith in your story. You have to have enough faith in your value to know what you want and say no to the rest. Let them fear missing out working with you. Let them come towards you. This stuff works. I had a client this morning say, day one of the campaign, 4 prospects have come towards her. Day one. I mean, it doesn't get any easier or better than that. So you take the avatar, you take the 3 keywords, you dig out the client, the customer's challenge, you dig out the pain, you dig out the outcome you want, and then what you're going to do is you're going to turn that into a campaign. You're going to have to intuit what works. We can help. You can do it on your own though. But the reality is that's what needs to happen. Campaigns aren't channel-based. You can't just run a campaign without a strategy. It doesn't ever work. Let's just do some Facebook ads. Great. What are you going to do, Mom? What's the purpose? What's the message? How is that congruent? When they go to your website, when they go to buy, is it all going to line up? Because if it isn't, you're going to get drop-off. You're going to blame the channel, and then you're going to blame marketing. Because you didn't do it right, because you didn't put strategy first, because you didn't get to the deepest place and make everything congruent and lined up. That's what the broken heart of marketing looks like. It's all the activity with none of the thought that needed to go into it. And it doesn't need to be this way. You don't have to spend a lot of money to make this go away. It's not rocket science. I'm not inventing anything new. Actually, if I'm honest, I'm supremely lazy. That's why I call it the lazy marketing method. My wife calls me lazy. I call myself efficient. I'm sure lots of people identify with that. But the reality is there's a fine line between lazy and efficient. I just want to do as little as possible and get the best possible result. And then the final two pieces, under execution, you have to be proactive, not reactive. You can't catch up by playing catch up. You have to draw a line and say, no, we're not going to get back there. We're just going to have to start from now, plan proactively. What are we doing next week? What are we doing next month? What's coming up? What do we need to get ahead of? What do we need to take control of? As opposed to being reactive. Reactive is marketing death. Proactive, fantastic. You will make a difference, but it won't happen overnight. And the last nugget for you today is you've got to avoid the paralysis of perfection. You know, one of the biggest things, I see clients do all the time is they try and be perfect. I don't try and be perfect. This wasn't perfect. This presentation, I will no doubt look at the recording and wonder what I could have done differently. But what I've done is I haven't read a script. What I've done is I've told you what I know in a unique way that I'll never replicate, because people buy from people. And I'd very much like to hear from you. I'd very much like to hear your thoughts. I'd really love to hear how you feel, what parts of this have triggered you, what parts of this have annoyed you, what parts of this has excited you, because people buy from people. This is the start of a conversation. And I'm looking forward to continuing it with you, with as many of you as possible. Don't shy away. Start the conversation, and the world lies in front of you. The broken heart of marketing is real, but it can be fixed. Thank you for your attention. If there are any questions, I'll look in chat. Otherwise, enjoy the rest of the summit, and thanks. Massive shout to Ketan and his team for putting on an amazing event. This is just incredible. Thank you all. Have a great day. And last but not least, I always deliver this message. It's all about love, not fear. Put love at the core of your marketing. You'll be fine. Have a good day.